Hi, you guys. We are on lesson 11 of our soul lessons and soul purpose journey with Sonia Choquette, Detach. So lesson 11, the soul lesson is to detach and let go, and the purpose is to travel lightly through life. Detach from the physical world, be part of the daily activity of life, but not enslaved by it. Right? The ego loves routine. Do not allow your happiness or peace of mind to depend on anything outside of your spirit, including the acquisition of material things, the attainment of fulfilling relationships, or the approval or agreement of others. Right? All surefire ways to create inner chaos and suffering. In family constellation training, I worked through some patterning on my mother's side around acquisition. My main facilitator actually explained that when immigration is recent in the ancestral history, there can be this charge around accumulation, consumption, acquisition. So family constellation work really helped me expand my view there, and I don't really have a hoarding problem, but I can see where I do surround myself with material things out of comfort and kind of create a nest for myself. You know, I do prefer to have a lot of open space, so because that gives me a sense of freedom, and I feel like open space, open mind, open heart. But I can see how certain material things like crystals and books and even card decks to a certain extent, having those things close to me gives me this sense of comfort, which is egoic, right? That attachment. But it's definitely gotten better and better with each generation, right? My great-grandparents on my mother's side were all immigrants from Italy, so that can create that patterning, that charge. Or if, you know, in your recent ancestral history, there, you know, your in your lineage, everything was taken away, right? It can create that I need to hold on to things or accumulate. So working through that with family constellation therapy can be really, really beneficial to help to detach from that patterning and to expand your view, right? Because it's the limited view of the ego. You should only have faith in following your heart and being true to your divine inner being. Right, that's how we creatively walk through life in the flow as improv artists. You know, these tools prepare us, and we can call on them and pull from them as needed, and not attached to things have to be this one certain way, right? You cannot make the universe around you or the people in it do, feel, or think what you want, no matter how much you may believe that you can persuade others or how hard you may try. Right? That's actually probably the worst approach. Like we were talking about it last time. You know, forcing your opinion on people creates a lot of resistance, right? When in actuality, a better strategy would probably be to be really detached and open to other people's opinions and talk through it and you know, even if it's just like kind of I'm pretending that I'm coming to this conclusion, that's actually a better approach than being so certain. Right? Do you have any of those relatives that just preach at you all the time about religion or other things? It's just, you don't want to believe what they're saying. It just creates so much resistance. It's not a very influential way of communicating. If you are attached to striving to control what you actually cannot in an attempt to achieve joy and a sense of well-being, you are forever doomed. right? Because you're living in delusion and then not seeing the results that you want. It's actually a much more powerful place to accept reality as it is. And then we're able to change it. We're able to refine our manifestations if we can assess it accurately. Let go of the need for such manipulation, and do not waste time lamenting or suffering over what is not going your way, nor clinging to notions that circumstances should be other than what they are. Life is what it is. Anytime we believe that things should be another way, or they should have been another way, we're creating suffering. That's when I came upon Inquiry, Byron Katie's work, questioning our beliefs. Is this true? Do I know for a fact it's true? What happens to me when I believe this? Is it possible that this isn't accurate? Using the process of inquiry, which is how the brain operates anyway, through inquiry, to detach from those beliefs that are creating suffering, and because it's all perception anyway. We can change the way we think if we just use that tool of inquiry. You may have your preferences and choose to create something else if you do not like what you are experiencing, but do not squander hours agonizing over what is not going your way, because then you'll just create more of it, right? That's actually focusing your precious attention and using your precious limited time on this earth to just create more of what you don't want, because the brain operates in the affirmative only. If you say, don't think of a pink elephant, I don't want to think of a pink elephant, it doesn't work that way, right? It's like, that's how you create it in your mind. You have to work in the affirmative. Detachment is an attitude that chooses peace of mind over struggling against the world. Committing to peace of mind, committing to love, it's a commitment, it's a decision. It means accepting what is without wasting your energy on resistance or wanting things to be different than they are. It is not resignation, but the quiet acceptance of the present reality as you have made it. And that's how you'll have influence over changing it. Accepting what is. When you are calm and self-possessed, you preserve your emotions and direct them toward creating what you want rather than against what you do not. Right? Because as we said, it doesn't work that way. You can't, the brain works in the affirmative only. That's why we work with affirmation. Instead of, I don't want this, we say, I am, or I am creating, I create this. To be detached from the world is a confusing soul lesson for even the most ambitious spiritual student, because one of the greatest reasons why you are drawn to a sacred path is that you want to create a more comfortable earthly existence. So it does feel a little disappointing to say, well, don't be attached now to the outcome and what's coming. But when you're attached to how you want it to show up, your hands aren't open to receive. Right? So think of that from the physiological aspect. We'll work on that in meditation. Asking you to let go of the strong pull of your desires may feel like being brought to a candy store and told you cannot have any sweets. However, freeing yourself of intense yearnings does not suggest that you cannot have treats or anything else that you want on the physical plane. It simply means that you do not allow a fixation on candy or any other thing, idea, or wish to destroy your inner peace. Again, peace and love over all else, even over comfort, right? When we have comfort's attached to certainty, which is attached to ego, right? And when we put that above love and connection, we withhold our love, and that creates suffering for us too. Or we don't allow ourselves to have a sense of peace. And that's self-abusive, right? To not allow yourself to have a sense of peace, to feel love and connected. So it's just reprioritizing that, putting those as priority. To detach means to choose to have a quiet, content mind, no matter what your external conditions are. Staying in the center in the eye of the storm, not chasing thoughts out, not attaching to the emotions that are flowing through, the thoughts that can just flow through and move away. When we attach, they become belief. You are not asked to withdraw, cut yourself off, shut down, push away experiences, or deny yourself the joy of anything. Instead, you are simply required to respond creatively rather than react emotionally to life as it unfolds before you. Right? Remain curious. Stay curious. I remember when I had just started at this metaphysical bookstore in New York City, and I had a customer come in, and I was so, naive and green and excited to learn and excited to hear people's stories and experiences. And this woman came in, and she was into shamanic practice, certain practices there. And I think she was talking to me about reading The Untethered Soul or something like that. And I was just so interested and fascinated by this person because she seemed so centered, so peaceful. And I just wanted to know her opinion and her experience. And I remember she said to me, I don't want to influence your experience and process with my own. So I'm just gonna, so I won't speak on that. I want you to have your own experience. She didn't say I want, but basically the message she was giving was, I don't want to have influence over your experience by giving you mine. I think it's best if you are able to have your own understanding and process without my influence. And I guess it was about an experience of a shamanic practice, or I can't even really quite remember what it was, because that wasn't really what moved me. It was the fact that it made me feel so cared for. It was like this mature, wise, and this was a young woman. She couldn't have been more than, early 30s. And the fact that and my heart blasted open, right? I was just like, I just felt so loved, and I wanted to give her so much love because I felt like that showed me so much respect and care, right? Because I was used to people, telling me how to think, telling me what to believe, telling me what tools to work with, telling me what books to read. I think it's natural in the human experience to go through that. When we're on the path, we're excited to share. But this woman had so much awareness of her influence over me that she was willing to say, I'm not going to share my experience with you. I think it's best that you have your own. And it was like she wanted to preserve my innocence and my curiosity and my excitement by not, like, she didn't feel compelled to corrupt that or influence that. And I don't think I've ever been loved on such a level since. It blasted my heart open. It was so beautiful. And I could tell she had done a lot of work on her heart. I didn't know that at the time. My heart blasted open in her presence. And I've had that experience a few other times with people who really worked on heart opening, their own heart opening, where just being in their presence opened my heart. We really are modeling for each other, you know, in our own energy fields. So it's really true about being the change. And her detachment to imparting her wisdom, right, or whatever it was, just felt so respectful and loving, and like I'm moved right now just thinking about how loving that felt. Because like I said, that's rare to come by, isn't it? It's very rare. So yeah, it's something to think about. The less attached you are to influencing somebody and imparting your wisdom or affecting the way they see the world or their beliefs, the easier it is for them just to open. Right? It's the story of like, it's like the parable of the sun and the wind trying to get the man to take his coat off, and the wind blows and blows and blows, and the man holds his coat tighter, you know, he holds on tighter to his coat, and then the sun just shines on him and he's just like, let me take my coat off. It was kind of like that idea, you know, just such a loving heart opening and shining on you opens your heart more than someone, you know, beating it into you. You should have an open heart. You should have an open heart. Open your heart. Use this crystal. Do this. Use this oil. It was just like, her heart was just so open because she had done the work herself. So it's another reason we're doing this, right? To have an impact on the world around us in that way. Not attaching to having an impact. One reason why it is important to do this, to allow for the unfolding, is that as a spiritual being, you eventually leave the physical realm. So you never truly own anything anyway. Right? We can't take it with us. So I think putting importance on material gain and material possession, it shouldn't be top of the list, right? Because it truly doesn't lead to happiness. Success is an internal state. Success is a state. It's peace. It's love. It's contentment. It's fulfillment. You know, in the human design system, like I talked about before, if you are a generator or a manifesting generator, you know, you'll know that, you know, you're not prioritizing correctly or, you know, kind of moving in a direction that's most beneficial to you when you're feeling frustration. Frustration will be the emotional tone and response. And if you are making good decisions, you know, aligning yourself with people that have your best interests, you know, that are on your frequency, you're making proper choices, taking proper action in your life, you'll know through fulfillment. You'll feel fulfillment. That'll be the state. So that'll be a way for you to use emotion, not attach to it, but see it as a reference point to what's showing up, right? If you're feeling fulfillment, that's a good sign that you're moving in the right direction. If you start to feel frustration, you might want to look at your manifestations and refine. No matter what you accumulate in this lifetime, when it is time to pass to another dimension through death, you must leave it all behind. Right? The only real thing worth pursuing in this incarnation is the experience of giving and receiving love. This is the sole aspect of the earthly journey that transcends with you as you transition from one plane to another. You know, I was in a coaching class, and we did a meditation with our future self, a future self meditation. And we asked our future self, one of the questions we asked was, what do I most value about my life in the future, right? And I had explored my future, and it looked like I was in a nice house, and I was in California, and I had a great body. I looked beautiful. I felt successful, like I had a great career. But when I asked my higher self this question, the answer was the relationships you've cultivated, the love you've shared, that's what means the most. Just like that woman who I had a 5-minute conversation with in the bookstore, that I worked at, was so influential in my life because she came from such a place of love. I'll never forget her. That touched my life because it truly was just the most peaceful and loving exchange I had ever experienced. So yeah, I think that, that's really the main thing that we should think about cultivating here. It's really the only lasting thing, right? The more you love, the more you grow the soul. The root of non-attachment is pure adoration and acceptance. Accepting what is. Acceptance of reality. It's the most rational approach to accept what is instead of being in resistance constantly. I lived in a resistance a very long time. There's still aspects of life I resist. And that's a form of attachment, right? But needing things to be another way. As long as the ego defines your desires, detachment is impossible. So as long as the ego defines your desires, detachment is impossible. Ego clings to everything and wants to control it all. Only your spirit allows you to break free. Yeah, that's why it's so important to be in touch with your heart center, and to allow your higher self to guide you through life, so you can be creative in the flow as it unfolds before you, just taking one step at a time, this moment, this present moment, to the next present moment. Easier said than done. Start by letting go of all unnecessary material objects. Creating is vital, not having. Do not fall into the trap of needing or holding on to what you have drawn into your life too tightly, or painfully grasping fears of not getting what you want, because the price is your peace. And we have to commit to peace. Peace is a commitment. We train ourselves to get into that state of inner peace by sometimes just processing out beliefs that are erroneous, that are creating suffering through inquiry. I think that's one tool that was very, very helpful for me when I found it. A lot of those beliefs are unconscious, or from we took on from an early age, or they are even unspoken. We inherited them, right? So slowing down our thoughts in meditation can help us see those things, and we'll work on that in meditation. The ego is never satisfied, and its attachments never allow tranquility. Right? It's about accumulation. I need things to be this way. I'm comfortable with this, so let's just keep doing it, even though, it's no longer really serving its purpose. It's familiar, so let's just keep going. Change your needs to preferences to remain free, to be serene and undisturbed. Language, the words we use have so much power. When I thought about that, we all have, basic human needs, but the way they are fulfilled are preferences, right? The way those needs get fulfilled are preferences. And I think that is much more empowering to me. It feels much more empowering to say preference over need, or I prefer instead of I need. I feel like that there's definitely much less pressure, right? There's much less pressure. I feel less pulled into chaos from that, from exchanging that word. Definitely. Just as you should avoid clinging to things, it is also foolish to become overly attached to ideas or beliefs. What may work in one situation or circumstance may not serve in another. You know, I realized this a while ago. You know, wisdom is not one size fits all either. You know, I was raised Catholic, and a lot of that was about sacrificing worldly needs. At least how I understood it, right? And it created this experience of spiritual bypassing for me, or premature ascension, where I never really fully developed a sense of self. So to hear wisdom of you should give more of yourself, have a giving spirit, you know, sacrifice your worldly possessions, you know, sacrifice your sense of self. Well, I never developed a sense of self to sacrifice. So for me, that wisdom didn't really fit. That advice didn't really fit for me. It wasn't helpful. It wasn't medicine for my soul, because what I needed was self-actualization, you know, the first part of our life is about developing a healthy sense of identity, right? At a certain point, we become independent. We fully realize, right? To a certain extent, we develop that sense of identity and sense of self. And I never really did. For me, it was never very concrete at all. I was dissociated from my body, dissociated from a sense of self. And so for me, I get where we're going here, because I lived there for so long. But for me, what was important was establishing a healthy sense of self through boundary work, energetic boundaries, and self-actualization within those boundaries, so that I then had something to sacrifice, right? Because you can't sacrifice what you don't have. And to just tell someone in that state to give more of yourself, to release more of yourself, I didn't have that to give. I didn't have that to release. So developing that was a process for me, and which helped me understand at a certain point that, you know, not all wisdom is universal. It doesn't fit everybody's story. It's not helpful to every person. My story, my journey, the wisdom I've gleaned is not helpful for every person. It's just not. In fact, people may feel repelled by it, and I can't be attached to that either, right? Some of the greatest suffering on the earth plane at this time is centered on people's adherence to opposing beliefs and their attempts to impose their credos on others. What is true for you may not be true for the other person next to you. Yeah, it may not be true for the person next to you. And I like to think of it as, you know, I've lived this life collecting data. You know, we live our lives with it through experience and the lens of the filters of what we've seen and come through already. And for me to argue that's fact and that's all there is, it just seems irrational to me. To me, it seems much more exciting and interesting to hear what you've been through too, and combine data. Like, that's how I like to think of it. Like, let's have a conversation and oh, really, that's your experience. Interesting. I experienced it this way. That's so fascinating. And then see what's similar about the human experience. How are we connecting here, and what are the differences? You know, I think that's just really interesting, because I have blind spots. You know, this is, you know, my experience, and it's very limited, right? It's a very limited worldview. I haven't seen things other people have seen or gone through things other people have gone through, and vice versa. So who am I to think I know everything, about anything? I'm very open to other people's points of view in that sense, when I'm not triggered into resisting, right? There is no cosmic right or wrong. There is only love. Part of your soul lesson on earth is to find your personal truth, yet know that it is evolving and changing, not fixed, rigid, shared, or unquestionable. What is your personal truth? That's why, having that conversation with that woman and helping me to see that it's up to me to decide how to see life. And she gave me that gift of the freedom to experience it with a beginner's mind. That was such a gift, to experience my path and my journey. In that sense, like I said, I didn't have anyone else do that. No one else really did that. Everyone else was really excited to, let me know what it's going to be like. I actually had a Reiki, my sensei for Jikajin Reiki would say, don't explain to people what they'll experience in a Reiki session. Like, don't explain it to them. Allow them to have the experience for themselves. Don't tell them what to expect. And at first I was a little resistant to that, because I was like, well, then what would their reason be for wanting to have a session? If I don't explain to them what they may experience, then why would they even want a session? But I did start incorporating that a little bit. I would say, you may find that this happens, you may experience this, but be open to however this shows up for you, because it's different for everybody. So I did start incorporating that then, a little bit more than I had. Yeah, I think that's interesting, right? That is more loving. Yeah, I think that is more loving and respectful. That, this is a unique individual who's going to have their own experience and results and sensations and whatever come up. So I can see that. Yeah. Hold a belief as long as it produces the results you want. If you're holding on to a belief and it's creating suffering, inner chaos, inner turmoil, take a look at that and you may decide it's time to let it go, or to tweak it. It is especially crucial that you detach from the need to win the regard of others. No one possesses the power to approve or disapprove of you unless you give it to them, right? Very true. I've as I mature, I'm working on it. As I grow older and I mature, I realize a more effective way of showing up is to just be more of yourself. And it will be polarizing. It will be polarizing. There are going to be people that don't get it, that don't get you, that don't like you, that don't enjoy you, that find you irritating, annoying. You may trigger people, but I lived so many years walking on eggshells, tiptoeing around people's egos, afraid to ruffle feathers, afraid to disagree. And because for me, it started on the outside. I was so other-oriented. Being empathic, I was so sensitive to the response and reaction of others. I was afraid. And so what I would do is I would just carefully tread, be as bland as possible, and try not to attract too much attention. Let me just be invisible over here and just dissociate from my body. right? And not have any needs. I'll try just to not have any needs. I won't be hungry. I won't need love. I'll just be completely isolated over here, and I just won't have any needs from anybody. And it doesn't work, right? It's just not effective. Because I actually then, the more I resisted the fact that I wanted connection and love and food and whatever other basic human needs, the more I resisted those needs, because I wanted to be a good girl. I wanted to be good. I didn't want to make waves, disturb anybody. I was conditioned, right? I was conditioned to do that. The more I resisted the needs, the basic needs, not the perception of need, it became compulsive, right? I would compulsively please people. I would compulsively eat because I was ignoring those, that basic need of a human. So when you resist something, it actually gives it strength and momentum. And, detachment is really the most powerful place to be. So, especially when you can't control it, right? When we were talking about that earlier, it's like, you can't control how others will view you. And that will actually probably change moment to moment, how they're feeling, their filters, what they've come through and seen. They might associate you with something you're just completely unaware of. It has nothing to do with you. And so your happiness can't be dictated by it, because you'll never be happy. Because there will always be people that don't like you. There will always be people that have a bad reaction, and I think it's wise to take feedback and really consider, could this help me learn and grow? Or is it really just theirs to feel, theirs to experience, none of my business? And the more we can detach from our emotional response to it, the clearer we'll see that, right? The clearer we'll be able to see that. To detach, simply let go. Break free of unhealthy grasping. Actually put something in your palm and then let go of it. We'll practice that a little bit through physiology and the meditation. I wrote that in, so. To detach does not mean to stop loving or caring. Instead, you no longer try to control so much and allow the universe to direct instead. Not doing this, paradoxically, can rob you of everything. The more we grasp at something, the more I can see this in relationship. There was a time where I would get so attached to the idea that, love was coming from this one person, and I would feel so much need and charge around getting that from that one person. It's really repelling. It's very repelling. It's impossible for them to move towards you when you're in that state. Really working through that. I think same with money. I think when you're focusing on how much you need it, in a chaotic, exacerbated way, or exasperated way, it's repelling. It repels. You're focused on the lack. So I think it is helpful to expand and open and allow things to come in. Just like we practiced with a receptivity last week. All suffering comes from attachment. If only he or she loved me. I had more money. I looked different. My family were another way. I had gone to school. I received more approval, or I got what I wanted. The if onlys. That is the root of suffering, right? Anytime we believe it should be another way or should have been another way, that creates suffering. Detachment frees you from ego. Detachment frees you from ego-centered fears and demands and reconnects you to your higher self. It is the antidote to your pain, and it allows you to flow with reality gracefully and with peace of mind. It's interesting that this week my morning pages have been full of anger and resentment, and I did notice a lack of faith in many of the pages. I started really, I think, sorting through some beliefs. Like, I had this belief that, certain people were taken away, or things were taken away, or experiences to protect me, put me on a different path. But then, you hear other people's stories and experiences, or just look around the world at the suffering and you think, why would I be protected and they wouldn't be? And I just started grappling with that. Like, why is that irrational? Like, how is it that I could be protected now? Like, why now? Why protect me now and not protect me from the pain from the past? So it just started creating some anger and resentment for me. Like, but then I think I started to realize it was out of attachment to feeling like I needed my desires to be fulfilled in a certain way. And that attachment to the need, or that sense of need, was what was creating the suffering to begin with. So, trying to put that into perspective for myself. It's very tricky, isn't it? To balance all of this. Every time you become annoyed, aggravated, or fearful, say detach out loud and imagine dropping your irritation. I can use this. Man, irritation with a sensitive system. It does come up quite a bit. And I noticed a few days this week I had too much coffee, and that irritates the system. So it just tasted so good, and I was like, oh, just a little more, and it's like, okay, you went overboard. That creates irritation in my system. I just get irritable and aggravated. But I liked that. I tried that yesterday, because I did it yesterday. I had too much coffee. I had a phone call with my friend, and I was like, it should be a good conversation. I know you like when I'm angsty and irritable. So she's like, oh, great. I'll rant too. I was like, okay. But then I did like a little bit of sweeping breath, like intentional breath, and that I learned from one of my mentors, and where you inhale up the left, inhale through the left foot up to the crown, and then exhale out the right side a couple of times, and then you switch. And it just helps with circulation, to circulate that stuff through. I also tried the detach, and it was pretty effective. You may want to take a trapeze course, enroll in an aqua massage class, or get a deep tissue massage to release attachments that have settled in your physical body. You don't have to tell me twice. I'm gonna schedule a deep tissue massage. I haven't had one in a long time. Yeah, my body is ready. My body wants it already. So that'll be nice. So think about one of those things. Trapeze, I guess because it's like a light feeling, like, although I'd be grasping pretty tightly to that trapeze, out of fear of falling, but, so that's the lesson for this week. You are now ready to apply this lesson. The crystal that I recommend working with is selenite. Selenite is one of my absolute favorite crystals. I have it in almost every shape. This is a sphere, right? I use selenite to move pain out of my body. I sometimes get empathic transmission for physical pain. Sometimes I probably won't use a sphere, but a sphere, anytime a crystal is shaped like a sphere, the emission of the vibration takes on that shape as well. So it helps envelop an aura, your aura, the aura of a space. So that's why we use spheres. And this is my selenite sphere. It helps to create a soothing, peaceful environment, attract protection from the angelic realm. I move pain, like I said, I move pain out of my body with selenite. One time I had taken on an empathic transmission from my mother in my left knee. She has pain there. She has, I think she has a ripped ligament or something. Something went on there, and she gets pain there from time to time. And so I noticed I started taking it on. So I wrapped my knee with my massage wands and pieces underneath the knees. Like I elevated it. I had one with a point. Although there are people that will say a termination on a selenite isn't really, it's not a quartz crystal. So, it's not going to be as effective as a point on like a quartz, something from the quartz family. But I used it anyway, and kind of wrapped it all around my knee, put it all over my knee, had some pieces underneath, and I honestly felt the pain move through my calf and out my foot, out the left side. It felt like an electric jolt, like of my calf, and it went out, and then it was completely gone. So that's one way. Sometimes I'll also, I have a lot of tension. I carry a lot of tension between my shoulder blades, and in my shoulders, I have that tendency to want to lift up and out. So I do carry some tension there. Also collapsed here. Sometimes what I'll do when I'm reclining for meditation is I'll put these right in by my shoulder blades so that they kind of massage that area and provide some energetic support. These help activate the third eye and the crown and align to, this is desert rose selenite. I have a lot of pieces of this. This is great for activating the palm chakra as well. And helps align to Christ consciousness. This also helps dissolve, cut and dissolve cords, right, of attachment, which is why I chose it for this lesson. You can scan your aura, right, to cut the cords. You can also dissolve them by meditating or sleeping with a wand. This is like a medium-sized wand. I do have larger ones, but I felt like they're charging crystals right now. I didn't feel like taking the crystals off, but you can put this in a windowsill, to bring in angelic energy. Selenite's one of my favorites, right? I mean, I even have a little, it's like a bar of soap, which I really love this. I sometimes put this on my sacral chakra or solar plexus. The selenite can go on any chakra, right? Anywhere you're experiencing discomfort, pain, it needs activation. Selenite, one of my favorites. And it's delicate and it dissolves in water a little bit, so be careful about that. And it also removes energy blocks from the physical and etheric bodies. I think I said everything else. It's excellent for meditation or spiritual work. Brings mental clarity, clears confusion, and reveals the bigger picture behind problems, right? So when you need that expanded view, selenite's great to work with. I chose peppermint essential oil, that light, Peppermint essential oil it's the most cooling oil. I use the most peppermint. Peppermint is my favorite essential oil. It gives you a feeling of lightness and buoyancy of the heart, allows for a short reprieve from the depths of emotional pain, and a sense that you're gliding on the surface for a time. You have to be careful not to overuse peppermint in that situation because it can prevent your growth, right? Or healing if you use it too much to escape. Gives you a breather, right? To gather strength and detach from that emotional response. So, peppermint, like I said, it's my favorite. I diffuse it also if I need to stay alert and concentrate. Like I had a radio show for a time. I would always have peppermint in the blend whenever I was blending to diffuse. I would always blend. I'm diffusing it right now. It helps with alertness of the mind as well, and which I think helps you be in the moment and handle things creatively as they come, right? Handle things from the present moment. And that's peppermint, just one of my absolute favorites. More information linked in the description about both of those. So let's get ready for meditation. Go ahead and drop a couple of drops of whatever oil you're using onto your eye pillow. This is my eye pillow, right? Peppermint is definitely one you're not going to want in your eyes. You're not going to want any essential oil in your eyes, right? Peppermint particularly. So it may be best to diffuse, or just be careful to put it only where you're going to be inhaling it, right? Don't put it near where your eyes will be. And I tend to use only specific oils. If you did happen to get an oil in your eye, you would use a carrier oil like fractionated coconut, right? You wouldn't use water because that'll just spread it. You would use, because the oils float on the water, you would flush it out with fractionated coconut or another carrier oil like that. Base oil, right? So let's get ready for meditation. Go ahead and recline, lay back, mat on the floor. If you choose to be seated and you have a back to your seat, make sure your tailbone goes all the way back to support your alignment. Alignment's important. Do you have your clear quartz? If you're choosing to program it, put it in the dominant hand or the giving hand, whichever you associate with giving. Selenite can go on any chakra. Intuitively feel that out. You could also hold it in your receiving hand. And start by taking some deep inhalations and exhalations. With each breath cycle, you're going to give whatever's holding you up more of your weight. Don't help it hold you up. Notice where you're pulling up and resisting. And breathe into it. And with the exhale, allow yourself to be supported by giving whatever's holding you up more of your weight. Feel how perfectly supported you are. And we're going to do our intentional breath. We're going to inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and pause for 4. And I'll lead you through it. Inhale through the nose. Hold. Exhale out the mouth. Pause. Inhale through the nose. Hold. Exhale out the mouth. Pause. Inhale through the nose. Hold. Exhale out the mouth. Pause. Inhale through the nose. Hold. Exhale out the mouth. Pause. Inhale through the nose. Hold. Exhale out the mouth. Pause. One more time. Inhale through the nose. Hold. Exhale out the mouth. Pause. And go ahead and breathe normally and naturally. You may want to continue inhaling through the nose to perceive your oil and exhaling out the mouth so that you're not blowing it out. But whatever allows for the most relaxation. We're working with the affirmation. I now detach and let go to travel lightly through life. I now detach and let go to travel lightly through life. I now detach and let go to travel lightly through life. Notice any areas of your mind and body that may be in resistance to this thought. It may show up as tension, pain, discomfort, irritation, or some other unpleasant response. Just notice it. Breathe into that area with each inhale and sweep it out of the body with each exhale. And now imagine a bright white light of divine love filling the empty space that was just created. With each breath cycle, your body is filled with more and more of this brilliant and healing light. Now go to the blank screen in your mind's eye. Ask your higher self to show you an area of your life that could benefit from a healthy dose of detachment. It could be in a specific relationship, in your career, finances, a specific belief, an emotional patterning, or some sense of need. Allow your higher self to reveal that to you now. What is priority to detach from now? Now imagine yourself gripping and holding on to this more and more tightly. And actually physicalize this by making a fist with your dominant hand. grip this tighter and tighter so that it cannot get away. And notice how uncomfortable it is to cling so tightly. You may notice that you feel heavier and heavier as your attachment weighs you down. You realize that with your grip so tightly wrapped around this aspect of your life, nothing new is able to enter. And it creates stagnation and immobilization, a sense of being stuck and trapped. Take in how much suffering is created through this attachment. And now, with one exhale and in one swift movement, open your hand and let go. Breathe a deep sigh of relief and feel how light, weightless, and free you feel now. This is the bliss and freedom that comes with letting go. Anchor this feeling in with the scent of your oil. Inhale through the nose. Hold. Exhale through the mouth. Pause. Inhale through the nose. Hold. Exhale out the mouth. Pause. One more time. Inhale through the nose. Hold. Exhale out the mouth. Pause. Breathe naturally. Visualize a bright white light shining from your heart center. See it fill your entire body and beam out into the world. This light magnetizes to you only those people, places, and things intended for your highest good. Feel the joy of being filled with this high vibration and imagine it overflowing from you to ripple out into the world, providing the same high frequency to anything it comes in contact with, instantly transmuting any lower vibrations. Stay in this resonance as long as you need. I now detach and let go to travel lightly through life. And so it is.